Yeah, for sure. Thanks for reading. All right.
All right, so we are joined from Atlanta by the star of Netflix, The Mole, captain for or pilot for American Airlines, rising TikTok star, fitness coach, Joi Schweitzer. Thank you so much for doing this today. We're in the transportation career cluster here at Velma Jackson High School. I got a room full here with me, and we're recording this for all of our friends at Madison Central High School, Rosa Scott, Germantown High School, Ridgeland High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you, as always, for making some time for us today.
Of course, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to do it. And hi to everybody watching, all the students. Thanks, guys, for listening and having me on.
Now, before we get into your several aspects of your career, to give us a little bit about your background, because I know your family was involved in aviation before you took that step, and you were a flight attendant first, and then you became a pilot, which is such a rare sight to see a Black female pilot or even a female pilot in the United States.
Yeah, for sure. When I was a kid, I was so adventurous. You couldn't tell me I couldn't do anything. I thought I was invincible. I wasn't afraid to do anything. My parents took note of it at an early age that I was very into aviation, very into airplanes. And my dad worked as an A&P mechanic for Lockheed Martin back in the day.
Wow.
And he took me and my siblings to a flight line one day. And that's where the seed was planted. He put me behind the large military aircraft, and I got to touch all the buttons and kind of feel around. And the rest is history. I say my dad kind of got me started in aviation, and the world was open from there. There was plenty of opportunities with space camps and all sorts of like aviation camps and engineering schools and STEM camps that I would plead and beg my parents to go to back in the day. So I kind of got my foot wet, and then fast forward some years later, I after I graduated from college with a degree in psychology, I decided to sit my parents down and say, hey, I really want to be a pilot. You guys know I really am into aviation. And mom said, we looked at prices for flight school. And back in the day, it was relatively not expensive at all. It was about to go from your private pilot's license to a commercial rating was probably like 25,000, which today that is nothing. Today it's over, $100,000. But back then we thought that was very expensive. And so my mom said, why don't you become a flight attendant? Get your feet wet, see if you enjoy the aviation world, the schedules, the tight schedules, the people. And I said, yeah, I'll do it. So I applied for a major airline company. They hired me. I was a flight attendant, worked my way through flight school while being a flight attendant, and here I am today.
That's incredible. Now, you did mention about your private pilot's license and then your commercial rating, because I think a lot of people don't understand it is several steps of pilot licensing, because you can go get your private pilot license, but that
Yeah,
limits what you can do. It limits how you can fly on the weather, how you can fly above the clouds. And there's instrument
yeah.
rating, there's multi-engine rating, commercial rating. So take us through all those different steps, because if somebody's interested in this, I think it's important for them to know what they're going to be looking at.
Yeah, so first and foremost, you can get started as early, I believe the age is 16 years old.
Yep.
So once you decide you want to go for it, you take a discovery flight and you're like, wow, this is really cool. That's when you begin to look into, financing, and you start with your private pilot's license. And like you said, Greg, that is, I say it's a license to learn. So you do basic maneuvers, you learn a little bit about weather, aerodynamics, and you're pretty much flying below the clouds. You're not flying in the clouds at all, because of course, you need another rating for that. And I'll talk about that shortly. But your private pilot's license, you learn a few maneuvers, you learn just the very basics of how airplanes work and how flying works. You learn how to take off, you learn how to land. You end up doing your solo flight by yourself on a long cross country. And then once you're like, I really enjoy this, you go after your instrument IFR license, and that's an instrument rated pilot. And that pretty much teaches you how to fly in the clouds, how to be safe, and to rely on your instruments to get you from point A to point B.
Wow.
After your instrument rating, if you want to keep going, go ahead.
No, yeah, because then there's several more after that. I mean, that's just still scratching the surface.
Yeah, still scratching the surface. IFR, your instrument license is a little bit more in depth with aerodynamics, in depth with weather. You talk about how you land an airplane in the clouds without really seeing the runway in front of you, and you're taught to strictly rely on your flight instruments. You're not looking outside because you can get very disoriented. So you're looking at your flight instruments to get you safely on the ground. After your instrument rating, you can go for a commercial license, which is like your private pilot's license. You're doing a little bit more advanced maneuvers in the aircraft. And then once you get a commercial license, you can either instruct, you can go to instructor school and teach others how to fly. And that's where most people get their hours and their experience. They're teaching other people how to fly. And once you get a certain amount of hours doing that, more experience under your belt, then you can apply for a regional airline. And I believe it's 1,500 hours, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if the FAA has removed that requirement yet, but when I was in school, I had to have 1,500 hours to begin to fly for a small commercial airline. And so I flew for a company called ExpressJet, and that's where Stephanie Grant and I met. So we're really good friends.
Yeah, and
yeah,
we also
it's a
have
great career.
Yeah, in Mississippi, we actually have a couple of aviation programs to where you could offset some of that cost, because we have a community college program where you can get your private pilot's license, and then we have a bachelor's degree program up at Delta State where you could get the first part of your pilot's license. And it does a little bit more for tuition, but you can still get scholarships to offset those costs. Now, another thing about aviation, you mentioned you were a flight attendant. If somebody says, I don't want to put in all the hours, I don't want to come up with the money, I don't want the responsibility of a pilot. There are for a plane to get from point A to point B, there are a ton of jobs and a ton of skill jobs that are necessary and needed right now, because not only you have the flight attendants, which everybody sees, you have the ground crew, you have the mechanics, the engineers, you have the air traffic controllers, you have the customer service agents, you have the baggage handlers. So there's a lot of people that go into aviation, and some of them never get off the ground.
Exactly. And you don't see that in the commercial world. I remember as a little girl, when I would get on the airplane, I never saw the pilots. I would hear them over the PA, and I was always really intrigued. You saw the beautiful flight attendants, serving the pretzels and the drinks. They were always very lovely, but you never saw the pilots. So yes, like you said, there are a lot of moving parts to get an airplane off the ground safely. And I was very fortunate because I was a curious kid. I would barge my way in the flight deck, introduce myself, and say, "Hey, my name is Joi. I really think your office is cool." And they take the time to answer questions that I had, and ask me if what I wanted to study. So they were very, very cool pilots back in the day. So being a flight attendant was cool too. I did that for several years, but it's nothing like being up front, being in control of the aircraft, and of course making a lot more money, flying the airplane. But yes, there are jobs, ATC, air traffic control. They make really good money, and that's a really great career. Gate agents, which I wouldn't suggest. I've seen a lot of gate agents kind of get talked to, disrespectfully, and they're out there. They're kind of the face of the company, and that's just something I wouldn't encourage a student doing, but yeah, I highly encourage, my position as a pilot, but I'm kind of biased.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I wanted to talk about next. I know you're heavily involved with Sisters of the Skies, which is a great organization. And it's not just and before you came on, I was telling the kids, aviation is one of the last fields that really has a diversity problem because I've flown maybe 60 times in my life.
Yeah,
I can remember one time ever that I've seen a female pilot, and I've never seen a
yeah,
black pilot.
yeah,
And it really is, we've had other pilots tell us that piloting is one of those things where it was kind of a legacy job. Your dad did it, your granddad did it, and so forth, and people would come into it that way. So it's like you
hmm,
guys said with Sisters of the Sky,
right,
you have to see things in order to know that it's available for you. And also, I would also venture to say there's a need for male flight attendants, kind of because uh, we've had some flight attendants say
yes,
there's times we needed a guy there because maybe they're taller, maybe
yeah,
a passenger felt more comfortable talking to a male. So there's a need for male flight attendants, but also there's a huge need for diversity in the cockpit.
yes, absolutely, and it all starts with conversations like we're having right now. Me, my colleagues going to college campuses. I used to work and recruit those kids, galvanized and excited about careers in aviation, and not just, you know, and not just being more flight attendants, because yeah, there's been cases where a gentleman passed out in the aisle, and they needed to move him, and they kind of had to get the help of other passengers because flight attendant to kind of move that mail. Um, but yeah, definitely, I love being a part of Sisters of the Skies. I love what they're doing. I love that we are growing that number from less than 1% to increase that number. And I'm so proud of the ladies, the mentors, um, and just how we all come together and encourage each other and uplift each other, and that's what it's about, inspiring them. And then once they get on, they inspire somebody else. So it's all about paying it forward. Um, so yeah, definitely. Uh, and I do want to see more minorities in my field, especially double minorities, Black women pilots, because it's a need for them, and it's an excellent career, very very rewarding career.
Yeah, and then even as far as non-minority females, you're looking at maybe less than 7% are females, period, of any race. So there really
Mhm.
is a need for more females in the cockpit and more people of color in the cockpit, and that's something that you're a great TikTok follow. I know you're getting more and more followers where you talk about that and you show the how a life of a pilot goes. So we'll definitely we'll get your TikTok handle out there because I think the kids would love to see that. Now, before I get to the students' questions, we got to talk about the mole because
Oh yeah.
uh, uh, I got to admit, I'm not a huge reality TV fan, but I found that I could not stop watching. It was literally
Uh-huh.
one of the coolest shows I've ever seen, and
Oh
it was a great cast, and it really showed y'all's personality, and it showed that even though you're real people, no matter how good your career is, you're gonna try to win the money. So tell us a little bit about that experience with the mole, because I know
yeah.
you guys were in Australia and all over the world. It was really, really cool to watch.
Yeah, I got an invite back in 2021. I think it was early March, and I thought it was a spam reality show. I didn't know what show it was for until I actually got to Australia, and they told us it was the mole, because of course they didn't want it getting leaked out. Very very cool experience. They asked me quite a few times if I would do it. I was like, I don't know. I have a family at home. My son was 3 years old at the time, and I didn't want him the criteria, the personality for the mole. So I declined and became a you know competitor, and it was a very fun experience. Scary, adrenaline going, very thrilling, um, and the entire cast is amazing.
Yeah, and without giving away,
Yeah,
anything on the show, you definitely faced your fear of snakes, which I thought was quite hilarious, because you
yeah,
had the snake around your neck. I won't give the
yeah.
context, but it definitely does happen, and it was quite funny to watch.
Oh, yeah, that was scary. The snake and the I say dangling off of the huge mountain, the Blue
Oh
Ridge
yeah,
Mountains in Australia.
yeah. Again, it was so cool to watch, and it's just really cool to have you here talking to us after watching you on there. So, and hopefully everybody will go watch The Mole on Netflix because it's still there and is a great series. But I do have some questions from the students. These are all ninth graders. Um, the
For sure.
first one is Trayvon Willis, one of our football players here at Velma Jackson, and he asked, "What are some requirements you have to meet to become a commercial pilot?"
Hi, Javon. Thanks for your question. A medical, a first class medical. So you want to make sure that you aren't colorblind or anything, that you're relatively in good condition to fly an airplane. You must be 16 years old. There are tests after every kind of rating that you get. So when you get your private pilot's license, you take a test and then you go up with the FAA and they kind of quiz you. They'll ask you questions as you're doing a walk around the airplane, just to see what you know. And then you go up in the airplane and they give you a test. Show me this maneuver, show me that maneuver. But they make you feel very relaxed. They know you're a student. They know that you're learning, and it's a like I said, it's a license to learn. So you just make yourself comfortable. They make you feel comfortable. And after you finish showing them what you've been practicing for 6 months, you're given a certificate that says you're good to fly this airplane by the FAA. And like I mentioned before, if you want to continue getting your ratings, then you'll go for your IFR, your instrument rating, and you do the same thing all over again. You'll have to make sure that your medical is renewed every year, and yeah, and you just repeat the steps that I mentioned.
Wow. And you make it sound so simple, but it really is. It takes a lot of commitment, and it's a huge investment of time. But the rewards, obviously, something I say a lot is the demand is high, but the rewards are great. So it really can be
Exactly.
extremely fulfilling if you stick with that commitment. This is Samaya Williamson, one of our volleyball and basketball players here at Velma Jackson, and she's got a two-part question. She said. The first one she asked, do you ever deal with imposter syndrome being a rare in your field?
You know what's I used to back in the day. I don't know what it was. I just when I was a kid, like I mentioned before, I was so fearless, and I thought I could do anything. As soon as I entered this field, and I didn't see a lot of women, and it's a male-dominated industry, of course. I would feel, I would have that imposter syndrome, but I quickly got over it because I am just as capable. I know what I'm doing. Um, I'm passing the similar when I went for my very first job in the commercial airline field. Me and my sim partner were the first to kind of graduate from our and I felt very proud of myself because I'm like, wow, I'm the only female, and I kind of the top of my class. And so you just have to know that you can do it, know that you're capable, and you have to continue telling yourself, like, this is what I was born to do. I love this. I'm making the money. Nobody's going to steal my, you know, sorry, hold on. Nobody's going to come between me and my paycheck. It's a fun career, and you motivate and inspire yourself.
Yeah, if you want to see the world and you really want to go places you might not ever go, this could be a good fit for you. Um, Now her second question is:
Exactly.
have you ever thought you couldn't get to where you are because of the rarity of Black women in your field?
Yes. In the beginning, there wasn't, when I was going through flight training and flight school and learning how to fly, there wasn't Sisters of the Skies. I didn't see Black women at all. You know, uh, pilots, air traffic controllers. You know, you see them as flight attendants, but I never saw them flying the actual airplane. And it wasn't until I met people kind of along my journey and they introduced me to an organization for Black aerospace professionals is when my eyes open and I'm like, wow, there are other people like me who are doing this. And so, just getting with to walk with you along this path, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. And just being secure within yourself. That's all it really is. It's just knowing who you are, knowing what you can do, and not letting anybody stop you or talk to you any kind of way.
That's awesome. I love this question. This is London Jackson. She's a member of our band here at Velma Jackson. And she asked, does turbulence bother pilots as much as it bothers passengers?
Good question, London. No, uh, we're so used to it, and to me, turbulence is like being in your car and going across speed bumps on the street. Now, we probably don't feel the impact as much as the passengers do because we're forward of the aircraft. You guys are rear of the aircraft, so you're gonna get used to it, and especially you really get used to it after having flown the smaller aircrafts because they're smaller and it's um, you can feel the airplane, but once you make it and you get to the bigger airplanes, it's not bad at all. It's just getting into your car and going down the street.
Well, I wish I felt the same way, but that's a great way to look at it. That was a great answer. This is Kyman Dawson, and he asked, what is your most memorable flight and why?
What's his name? I'm
Kyman,
sorry. Could you repeat the
I'm
question?
sorry.
And
This is
Hyman.
Kyman,
Okay. What's my most
memorable flight and why?
memorable? Okay. Oh, that's a really good question. Uh, uh, I say my most memorable flight would be when I got checked off in my current airplane, which is the Airbus. And by what I mean when I say checked off is after I finished my training, my ground school, it was a huge undertaking. I'm going to be honest. I was a little nervous because I had a very experienced guy watching me, but every box I was doing really well, and I really felt like I had made it after he gave me a handshake and said, "You are qualified to fly this airplane.
Wow.
Congratulations." That felt very good.
Now,
Thank you for your question.
yeah, that was a great question. Now, one thing that I meant to ask is, what are some of the cool places that you've flown to? Because I know you've put some on your TikTok, and you've been in some really exotic locations.
Yeah, I'd say I love going to Bermuda. It's such a small island. The people are great, the culture's great, the food is amazing, and you can't beat the location. We stay at a very kind of exotic location on the water, and it's really cool. You can kind of walk up the street to a place called Swizzy's, and I think that's on my TikTok as well. I also like San Diego. Beautiful place. Weather's always beautiful. Weather's always perfect. There's never really a cloud in the sky, and we stay at a very, very luxurious hotel there as well. I'll be flying a 777 or a 787. That's the wide body aircraft. And I'll be flying to Europe. So I'm really excited about those European trips.
Wow. I just got two more from the students. This is Leah Smith, one of our volleyball players here as well. And she said, do you only want to fly, or do you have other plans in your career?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. Right now, I am concentrating on being a mom. I am 7.5 months or 7 months pregnant. I guess I'm kind of wanting it to be over with. I have a son who's 6 years old. I am married. I have a one on the way. So I am concentrating on being a great mother. Concentrating on moving up. Like I said before, I want to eventually fly the 777, the white body. So I'm going to the European trips, and it'll be a lot less flying for me. It'll be a great balance, a lot less flying for me and more time spent with my friends and family at home. And you can balance it, guys. It seems like it would be a very, very difficult task having a family and being gone all the time, but you make it work. My family and I, or my family is very supportive. They've always been very supportive. And I'd say it's difficult. It's very, very difficult in the beginning, but if you stick with it, you get a lot of more seniority at your company. And so right now I am holding about 17 or 18 days off a month. So I'm not flying much at all. So I'm making the big bucks. I'm staying home and, hanging out with my friends and family. So that's another perk.
Absolutely. This is the last one from the students. This is Micaiah Williamson.
Thank you for your question.
Oh yeah, that's a great question too. They always get some good ones. This is Micaiah Williamson, another one of our volleyball players, and she asked, "What is the like the most about flying?"
Say that one more time. You kind of cut out a little bit.
I apologize.
Can you repeat that?
She asked, "What is your favorite thing that you enjoy the most about flying?"
Getting to know my crew, hanging out with flight attendants, hanging out with my captain. I'll be upgrading soon, so I'll be the captain.
That's awesome.
So yeah, getting to know them, going and exploring the city that we're in, eating exotic foods. I'm such a foodie. And just experiencing different cultures really intrigued me as a little girl and today. So yeah.
Yeah, and it really is, and we're in a rural community here, so a lot of kids tell me, "No, I want to get out of the country." This could be a great way to do it.
Oh yeah.
Even if you're not a pilot, even if you are a flight attendant, you really can it's almost like you're getting paid to travel. I mean, obviously you're working and you got to take care of of everything, but it is a great way to see the world. And it's
exactly
just such a cool career.
I'll tell you this, Greg, before I forget, you made a good point. I had a lady in my class back in the day, flown before in her life. So she was going through flight attendant school, and her very first flight would have been after she graduated from flight attendant school and stepping on the aircraft and going up. I thought that was incredible. And she's still a flight attendant to this day.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
That is, I mean, yeah.
Didn't know what she was getting into.
Yeah, and you're not even paying to fly, so it's really cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Now,
planning to go on vacation, or you're flying, you're getting paid to go on vacation.
That's right. Now we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for taking some time for us. But before we go, first of all, everybody needs to watch The Mole on Netflix. It's still there. You were great on there. I won't give away the ending, but it really was a great show, and everybody needs to go watch that. Also, give us your TikTok handle because you're a great TikTok follow.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, for sure. My TikTok is where are you, social media? Um, sorry, I think it's different than my Instagram handle, but I am Joy. So my first name is Joy, not Joy, but it's J. So it's kind of play on words. Joy Ride High is my TikTok. And then I am at the, the Joi Schweitzer on Instagram.
Yeah, I'm getting everybody to start following you because you really are a great follow. Really great insight into the aviation industry.
Oh,
But before we go,
thank you, Craig.
oh, you're all, very welcome. But before we go, I have a room. I have a room full here with me of young, smart Black kids that really, need to be exposed to so many different types of occupations, so many fields that maybe your grandparents, their grandparents were not able to be exposed to. There's so many more options now for these kids. So why should they really consider getting into aviation? Not just because of the diversity issue we talked about, but because of it being
Yeah,
so exciting and so in need of smart, young, intelligent kids.
yeah. I'm gonna keep it real with you guys. I get paid to literally go on vacation. Okay. I don't have a 9 to 5 job where I have to get up, put on a a suit jacket, and get eating. I get to go to work, go to the airport, meet incredible people. When I say the crew, the passengers are awesome too. They're funny too. I met Rick Ross, Charles. I just recently met Charles Barkley and Venus Williams. They were on my aircraft, but
Wow.
they're freaking awesome. It's guys, it's so fun. Um, and I know this very elementary word to say. You get paid to fly $1 million jet, and you get paid a lot of money. I know some of my peers, a lot of my mentors get paid more than NBA basketball players, to be honest. Once you get up into the industry and you're working for a major company like American Airlines, Delta, FedEx, UPS, and you're a captain on a wide body, you're getting buku money. And there is always opportunity to, I mean, they throw money at you, to be honest. And it's not all about the money, guys. It's truly a rewarding career. I Landing is so much fun. The sky is always different, and your landings are always different. You may have a crosswind landing where you have to work a little bit harder to kind of correct for those winds, and you're kind of bumping along, but it's challenging, and you're trying to land better than the next person. But it's such a awesome, valuable career.
And
And I
it's
hope
not
you
going
guys
anywhere.
consider a career as a pilot. It's not going anywhere. No,
Yeah,
we need pilots. I think we're hiring about, yeah, I was going to say now is a really good time to become a pilot because I was trying to climb the ladder. You had to get through all of these hoops, and there weren't scholarships that I could apply for. You have Sisters of the Skies, the talk today. Organizations for Black Aerospace Professionals, obap.org. You have Women in Aviation. You have one is the LGP. I have to Google it. Yeah, but there's an organization for, oh my gosh, LGBT aviation. NGPA. So you can get scholarships through that organization, NGPA. And am I leaving anything out? I believe that's it. And there's also the military routes. So if you want to go to the Air Force, the the Navy route, you could do that as well. And they pay for it. So save, save, apply for the scholarships, don't spend frivolously, and make it happen.
That's awesome. Well, again, we thank you so much for joining us, doing so many cool things. One of the best TikTok follows you're going to find, Star of the Mole, pilot with American Airlines right there in Atlanta, Georgia, Joi Schweitzer. We thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, Greg. Thanks for having me. Anytime, I'll come back.
Hey, if you ever land in Jackson, we'd love to know it so we could have you on campus.
I've been there before. I will.
Well, let us know next time. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon, my friend.
You're, of course. See you later.
See ya.